Hey y'all, thanks for checking out my video. I'm Erica Roberge, your psychological fitness coach. The last couple of weeks, if you've been watching, we've been talking about motivation, what we need to do to enhance your motivation and also to maintain it over time. But I'd be pretty naive to believe that motivation is all it takes to help you achieve your goals. Sometimes other things get in the way of even the most motivated people. And that's what we're going to work on for the next couple of weeks. Today we'll start by identifying what it is that's getting in the way and how, and then we'll start working on what we need to do to take down those barriers or to address the things that are getting in the way. So, for example, somebody who wants to lose weight, they might feel really motivated. Maybe, you've implemented the habit strategies that we talked about a few weeks ago. You're in the gym every day, you're kicking butt, you're doing everything that your trainer's telling you to do. But then you still go home and maybe life is really stressful and you end up sabotaging all your hard work by overeating, for example. And that cycle becomes really frustrating because you're doing a ton of work and you can't help that life gets in the way and life is stressful, and eating is something that helps alleviate your stress. But then the eating is really being counterproductive to your goals. So that's something that we need to figure out. So what we're going to talk about today is how to identify what those links are of either emotions or more likely behaviors that are getting in the way of you achieving your goals. And we're going to do this with ABC worksheets, which are the staple of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the most empirically supported psychological therapy that we have for most problems. And ABC worksheets are something we can apply to everything from relationships to health and fitness to post-traumatic stress disorder to thoughts of suicide. This is a skill that if you master it will be so helpful in your life. So I'm going to talk about it mostly in terms of health and fitness goals, but realize that you can practice this technique in all areas of your life, and I definitely encourage you to do so. So ABC worksheets. These are things, either you can write it out from me describing it, you can also Google it, and you will be able to find a ton of them for free online that you could download or recreate on your own. So A, what does it stand for? It stands for antecedent or activating event. In other words, what happened? B is belief, or what thoughts are going through your mind. And then C, we have consequence. And I'm going to ask you to identify two different kinds of consequences. I want you to identify your emotions and your behaviors. And these both go under C for consequence. And all of these things will be linked together. It might not be immediately obvious what all the things are, but when you stop and think about it, and also as you get more practice, it's going to become more obvious, and it's also going to start to come more second nature to you, so that your emotions and behaviors feel a little bit more controllable, and also you'll feel like you understand them better than maybe right now when you don't understand why you do or feel certain things. So let's go through an example. And we're not always going to know that things happen in the ABC order. Feel free to jump around. But a key time to know that, hey, it's time to try to do an ABC worksheet is when you have a really intense emotion, or when you engage in a behavior that is counterproductive to the goal you're working on. So let's say you come home from work and you binge through the kitchen like you haven't eaten for a week, and that is counterproductive probably to a lot of goals, but let's talk about your goal of losing weight, for example. Now, why did you do that? You don't know. It's hard to say. You can think about it, well, okay, I was feeling kind of stressed and maybe empty. I felt like maybe, I don't know, probably stressed and empty are what you first think about. Why were you feeling stressed and empty? I don't know. What happened today? What happened right before you went and ate through everything in the kitchen, or what happened that made you feel maybe earlier in the day that, hey, I can't wait to go home and do this. Maybe you got in an argument with your significant other or your boss, and you've been carrying that stress all day. So far, we've covered the A, which is the activating event, being the fight with your boss, and we have consequences. We have that emotion, the emotions of stress and emptiness, and also the behavior of eating through the kitchen. So what about the B? What's the thought? What do you mean? This is usually the hardest part for people, especially when they first start working on this. So what I'm going to ask you is, how did we get from the argument with your boss or your partner to feeling stressed and empty? There's something that connects those things. Maybe you had a thought that, man, we fight all the time. This might be the end of our relationship. Maybe you have a thought that he doesn't respect me and this is never going to change. He doesn't love me. These kinds of things. So now we can see a link. Getting in a fight, thinking my partner doesn't respect me, feeling stressed and empty. And now, hey, now that I think about what I was thinking is that my partner doesn't respect me, I feel a little bit angry, and actually I feel kind of sad. And so what I did to cope with all of those feelings in this moment, because I don't know what else to do, is I went and I ate a bunch of stuff. And now I feel guilty. So try to lay out all of these things. Again, the activating event, the belief, and the consequences being both emotions and behaviors. Now, when you first do this, like I'm telling you now, finding those thoughts or beliefs are going to be pretty hard to identify. But start with what you've got. And then what I want you to look at is, does it make sense how those things are linked? And if it's not, then we need to dig a little bit deeper, either with the thought or labeling the feeling correctly. So, for example, maybe I pass somebody that I'm really good friends with on the street and they don't wave at me. So I feel angry and I'm like, well, I guess we're not friends anymore. And then I text them and say, tell them off and tell them we're not friends anymore. We have to ask ourselves some questions. So am I making assumptions about what happened in A? And do the emotions that I'm feeling that I'm putting in C logically follow from B? If the emotions and the thoughts don't really link up, then you need to ask yourself, what else might have I been feeling, or what else might I have been thinking about, or what would it mean if that were true? So if I thought it was true that my friend like purposefully ignored me, it means that they don't care about me and they don't want to be friends, and that's why I have this huge reaction. So we want to make sure that we get down to where our thoughts and our feelings line up. So your goal for this week is not necessarily to start to change your emotions or your behaviors. Rather, it's to gain insight about how all of these things are linked. And then I want you to ask yourself for every situation, was my response helpful in achieving my goal? So was rummaging through the kitchen and binging helpful to me meeting my goal of losing weight? No, it probably almost is never going to actually be helpful. So you can think then, what can I tell myself in the future? Or what else can I do in the future? So telling myself might be, I feel disrespected, but I know he loves me, and if I talk to my partner, then we can fix this. Or what can I do in the future when I feel disrespected other than eating a bunch of food? I can go work out or I can call a friend. So we're starting to come up with alternatives here. I would like for you to try to do one of these worksheets a day for the next week at least. And actually writing it out is really important. Just doing it in our heads, it doesn't really sink in the same way. And I want daily repetition because the more you do these, the more automatic they're going to become over time, and then you won't have to sit down and write it out, and you'll realize these things in the moment. So do the ABC worksheets every day for the next week so we can try to identify some of these triggering events and maladaptive coping strategies that you currently have that are getting in the way of you achieving your goals. So again, we're going to have a couple of columns. A, activating event. B, belief or thought. C is a consequence, including both emotions and behavior. Ask yourself if your behaviors were helpful to achieving your goals, and then what could you have done instead? If you have any questions, leave me a comment and I'll get back to you to help you out with this. Good luck.